Slide with it, slide with it, slide with it, now glide with it, now work.
Oh, yeah.
Now slide with it.
There we go. It's episode 99. Dominic, Tommaso, Dom Tomato. He's an amazing and incredible celebrated parkour legend. You know him. It was great to catch up with him. We haven't spoken in years. Last time was on an NEPC broadcast, and you know, as much as I follow and love his movement, it's always more enjoyable when you get to know the person a little more. So I hope you guys get to enjoy this as I did, and getting to know Dom a little more. We talk about that capstone project, obviously, that just came out, that was such a huge impact on the community, and then just a little bit of everything else. So much love to Dom for being a part of this episode, and you guys for listening. Check out the links for everything else. I'll see you at the end of the episode real quick. Thanks for coming on and doing this with me, Dan.
No, of course, man. I actually been looking forward to it. I love podcasts and catching up and just chatting, but I'm really bad at time management.
I figured you probably are really busy, you know? I mean,
Well, it's not as busy as you think. Like 300 days of the year, I just wake up, have the morning, go training, maybe have a break in the middle of the day now, and then go back in the evening and do some like golden hour shit. But it's all like self-run as well. So I don't really have to do too much that I don't want to do.
oh, that's perfect, man. You got the bright setup then, it sounds like.
Yeah, I definitely strived for that when I was like trying to launch everything. I was like, you know what? This is like, the goal is to be paid to train every day. Like I didn't want to like do a professional, do shoots or do shows. I just wanted to train every day. And that was like, so I just worked whatever worked out to be that. I was just doing that.
Is that kind of how you did it, Len? You're like, is this training every day or is this something else? And then you just moved in that direction consistently, or what?
I just always enjoy like going out and jam with the community the most out of all like the kind of ways to practice, and showcasing it is always just filming it and putting it online. That was even when I started in like 2007. That was what I did. I just filmed it, documented it, put it together to music, and then whacked it online. And so that's always been like the natural output source for me. And so then when that became like an option with social media and that sort of thing, I think I took to that more naturally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't mind my asking, how does that actually equate to income? I mean,
Well, interestingly enough, it didn't equate to income for the last like 7 years. So up until I had 1 million followers, I wasn't earning any money directly from Instagram. They've they've installed a new software now where you can earn money from IGTV, which they're like trialing.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, I don't earn a dime directly from Instagram. I mean, as you probably can tell, I don't do many paid posts. All my posts are training.
Yeah, it's true. That's why I was curious about it.
Yeah. So the ways I like got the training every day thing was through sponsorship. So the first sponsorship I had like officially was with Apes, the gym. And they basically were like, the gym wasn't making incredible amounts of money either. They just thought that, the return for promotional purposes, and I was teaching at the gym once a week as well, was like a fair trade-off there. So I was posting every day, wearing Apes content in I think 3 or 4 posts a week, and like just doing everything I could to channel traffic through back to the gym and that sort of thing. And they were paying my base like rent per week. Like literally, I think I think at the time it was $150 per week I was paying rent, and they paid me $200. And that's all I lived off for a very long time.
Wow.
But then those other 60 days are always made up of like, what I say, like opportunities to do really cool things with like work. So now that's more designated in the sponsorship run with Red Bull. But back in the day, it was like commercial work or shows or motion capture stuff would come up, once a month or something like that. And that would be like
just enough
money to live with.
Yeah, that's amazing, man, that you've transitioned through. And now what is it like? Because I think there's a good amount of people that have had that experience of kind of entering into those little stages you're talking about, and like coaching and maybe trying to scrape by. And then, a lot of us get pulled in different directions. But now how is it transitioned so that you're, in a different phase?
Well, so this, interestingly enough, the transition I think only happened really recently, where I was able to get my head above water with like the base financial income. So until this year, I was earning less than what you would earn from government pay.
Wow.
Doing free running, and I was just like making it work. um, you know, like I was below the tax-free threshold for everything in Australia. I was
wow.
yeah, I just didn't make much money. But then I got pay rises from sponsors, which was you know, a substantial amount as well, which meant that then my base salary is high enough to kind of get by. And then now I can afford to like pay for an apartment back in Sydney. So I'm actually paying rent for an apartment back there, and then I have some friends staying there occasionally and, you know, chip in and that sort of thing. But it's really the first year that I've had, I guess, financial independence, and I haven't had to like hit zero repetitively and wait for that next paycheck.
Wow. So that's maybe, is that at all in conjunction? Because there's certainly a little bit of a spur, it seems like, from you lately and this year, of you just like, I mean, you are always going gas, like as you like to say, and like you're always like impressive in the amount of content you put out and the way you push the sport and the way you push yourself. But it seems like as of late, it's even taken another level. And maybe that's because COVID's opening up, but also maybe there's some of the stability. Is that helping?
Stability definitely helps. When, you know, especially like, I'm not going to go into too many details personally about it, but like I was able to make some changes in my life that really alleviated the stress that I was going through. And yeah, you're definitely right. In a way, I looked back at the last like 3 to 5 years of training, and I had this weird theory about like every athlete I know that I've trained with, you know, 3 years ago to now, they're much better athletes. They're more skilled. Their, you know, technique's higher. Their output's better. Oh, sorry, their output's not better. That's the only thing, is a lot of people would be considered to have peaked years ago because of the higher output. And being in Australia definitely caps some of that for me. Like the travel is something that really unlocks the hunger and the potential for me. I think being around other athletes who can see things and give me the ideas to kind of do, like I can be the body to kind of do that idea, really helps. But I just look back at like my show reels from each year, and I was like, for me, 2018 was the heaviest hitting year out of all of those years, not only in like viewership from the video, but the way I look at the video as a total package. I was like, that seems to be like the year of like peak output, not necessarily peak physicality. I'm definitely more skilled in my techniques better years later, but the output was there. So this year I decided, I'm like, my whole journey is to beat 2018 Dom. Like that guy.
That's a tough boss. I mean, that's when you're, that's when you know you've gotten to a new era. Like, it's just like the only, I mean, you're always your best competition, I'd say, and your worst competition, right? In your mind and all this. So that's awesome. That's cool that that's the way you're thinking of it, though. So
but yeah, that's the best way to put it into
track.
layman's terms. But I'm never really satisfied with where I'm at. I'm always trying to just progress. I think that because there's so many things within the sport that I fucking suck at, man. Like I happen to be good at things that are really sellable online, but if we get down to like the crunchy, gritty bits of the sport, I always need to work and I always need to train. And that's what's really fun about it for me, is there's an endless progression chain to like awareness and physicality.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most admirable things to watch about you, is that you totally take on even the things that maybe you're not so good at. And it opens up, not that like, you know, whatever, but just like
that's how I see
you become good
like,
at them. You become good at them. And then you push people, like even if you're not the twisty guy, now you're doing 720 pre's across, or strides across gaps and things that are like, well, no one was even really doing that. I mean, I'm sure there was maybe a few like double, but it's just, that's one of the things that's just so admirable, I think, and just amazing to watch, is just part of your strategy seems to be like, I'm not going to back down or shy away from any type of movement. And you haven't really limited yourself.
Fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's all really like I'm so inspired by so many different athletes in the scene, because there's like the reason I'm started really doing those 720s and showcasing them more is because I saw Matteo PK and him and I have almost been like training together. So he'll send me them before he posts them, and I'll send them before I post them to him, to be like, bro, chicks, I did a new one. And like that kind of camaraderie and like almost ability to train correspondently as opposed to like being able to catch up has been really beneficial during COVID, like with yarn and dive rolls.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We bonded over dive rolls, and like he's been pushing me to do more and that sort of thing. And it's just, like there is like with COVID, you know, things that got lost, but there's also things that have been gained with that, where you can almost have like a training partner for a move. And I just like, if I do something where I was inspired by an athlete, I generally send it to them. Like Matt McCreary has been a huge influence on my movement because it's so diverse. And I know to myself that I'm quite linear.
Me too, I think, in some ways, at least. I'm trying to expand as well. That's great, man. I think that's, like, for me, I've not been able to pay as close attention as sometimes I would have wanted to some of these, to Matt McCreary and to Jan and some of these other guys, because, just it's a lot to stay in it sometimes. But I love that you're taking the advantage, and not even advantage, but just like like you said, you're like, who's that guy doing it this? I'm going to help him push me with that. I'm going to help. We're going to work together on this move. And that's a really good strategy. That's a really high leveraging use of social media these days and the community. Sure. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, as you said, it is hard to keep your ear to the ground community wise. Like I actually do like put in work to like look for up and coming athletes and make sure I'm like interacting and supporting with people that are doing good things within the sport and that sort of thing. Like it is a conscious effort because I want them to feel the support that I felt from other like peers and athletes when I was coming up as well. Like, like absolutely. I don't even see myself as come up. Like it's always coming up, right? But the idea is like, I have an understanding of the influence side of things. I'm not like ignorant to that. I don't like to put myself in that position. Like those people are all just my friends, and I'm just making new friends through the sport in that sense. But I know that a show of support can really make a difference, like just that sort of like Jason, for example, was someone for me who just gave me that attention and gave me that respect that then I felt more confident to push myself.
True. Yeah, no, I think we all have felt it in the sport, in the community, one way or another from each other that it helps a lot. It really goes a long way, like you're saying, much further than sometimes you think. I wanted to ask, there's a story that's been lingering in my mind. I'm not sure where I heard it, but it was like about your ankle being destroyed before some like old ice skating competition, and your coach was just like, you're going in anyways, and you're doing it.
Yeah, so it wasn't a competition.
Oh, okay.
But so I was 17. I'd found parkour. I was training parkour on the weekend, but I was also still doing high level competitive pairs ice skating.
Okay.
So it wasn't solo. I did have a partner who was also like, depended on me for all of the skating. And I rolled my ankle. It was like double the size. Classic early parkour ankle roll. And I just called my coach the night before the session. I was like, hey, I'm not going to come in. Like, I've hurt my ankle. He's like, no, you will come. I'm like, Andre, I've hurt my ankle. I can't come. He's like, no, you will be at the session. We have practice 5:30. I was like, oh, I can't come. And so we went back and forth for like 3 minutes, and then like neither of us kind of gave way. So I just hung up. Like I was like, fuck it. I've said to him, I'm not coming. And then, we lived very close to the ice rink. So at 5:45 the next morning when I didn't show up, he comes to the door like, Dominic, where are you? Come outside now, blah, blah, blah. It like makes me put my ankle up. He looks at it, he's like, this is nothing. You will be in the car in 1 minute. I'm like crying and shit, going to the ice rink. But then this is where like the kind of lesson of it all was then on the ice, because my boot was like ankle high and I'm strapped in. I actually had one of the best training sessions. I don't know if it was like pure motivation or whatever, but I actually had an amazing training session on the ice. And I was like, not immediately, but like, months later or years later, I kind of was like, fuck, he was so right. Like the limit of what I thought I could do was past, like, past that point. Like I thought I had to stop here, but this threshold exists of continuing on without doing damage or anything like that.
Yeah. And I think, that story stood out so much to me because it's so telling, I think, of maybe not, but I read it as like, wow, you clearly ran with that. It seems like to me, in just like this idea of like where everyone thought you would stop, where everyone thought you should stop or could or have to stop even, is clearly not there. And you're still taking it from me. You posted one today that was ridiculous, like this front flip from 7 meters or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And just like, is that something that like, does it harken back to some of those moments? Do you have more moments like that? I'm just curious about like what it is that you think that other people, like what stands in the way of them taking on these huge challenges, these seemingly big, high levels of impact that seem just impossible? Is there something that you're seeing? Because I think also what's interesting is you sort of have this protege now in Kidori, who's clearly studied under you in some way, and clearly has taken his training to a very similar, like awe-inspiring, like jaw-dropping levels of absorption of impact and airtime. And so I'm just curious, like what that, if you could just speak on like what it is that you guys feel like you've unlocked that allows access to that kind of impact. And is it a mindset thing? Is it just physical? What is it?
So it's definitely a combination of both things. Like Michael is one of the most rawly talented athletes that I've seen when it comes to absorbing impact. Like even when we first started, his capacity to take drops was very high for someone who'd been training as long as he had. He comes from a background of like high level skiing, but not skiing. I can never remember the fucking name of it. Telemarking.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
down,
no wonder his knees
really
are so
low.
strong.
So his lowest squat strength and his lower posterior chain ability is really high. And I think more so with him, and this is where we'll answer the question, is when he started training with me, we just really wanted to work on, like he asked me, but together we wanted to work on unlocking his like mental capacity for things. So his ability to go, okay, I'm this strong, I'm this fit, it's just fucking scary. I've done the technique before, it's just scary, and breaking that mental barrier. And there was sessions where we would do the same challenge, but he would spend like 30, 40 minutes at the top of the jump and just couldn't overcome that fear until like that final moment, and then almost would be dissatisfied with the jump. But it is just rehearsal, and we trained almost every day for 2 years together, and now he's doing things I couldn't even like fathom, like the downwards arm jumps and some of the drops. I'm just like, I can't even claim that. Like he's a very, very driven person. But it is really like a mental capacity and attitude to, as you said, like that's not the limit. That like I think more so not thinking itself as like breaking limitations, but thinking that things are conceivable if you can break down the logic, right? So like both him and I know how to disperse impact in different ways and how to absorb impact, and we've done a lot of conditioning doing medium-sized impacts that aren't the things that are showcased online. So even during the day of training, we'll be spending a lot of time working on not just like quantity of doing jumps and making sure that we've got correct technique at a medium size, but also like talking a lot about the kind of theoretical concepts of impact absorption, where you can fall, where you can lie. Like jumping into those bark piles that you see is totally different to jumping onto grass or jumping onto concrete. There's like a different technique that's used with those things. And I think simply by being together and able to kind of bounce those ideas and knowledge of each other, we've both been able to improve the capacity for that.
Love it.
Yeah, but it is just like a self-confidence thing, knowing like self-belief more than it is like pushing a certain limitation. I think if you get up in your head about like before and after about like this is going to be a historic jump, or like this is going to be groundbreaking, or this is going to be revolutionary, or if I fuck up, I won't be able to train for this reason. You got that, all that stuff has to go to the side, and you just think about it as another jump. Like, yeah, there was one, I can't remember specifically what jump it was, but I was really nervous to do it. It was like a side precision or a Kong front pre. And we were at the top of the jump, and Michael just goes, it's just the same as any other Kong front pre. And I was like, it is like, I think it was the capstone one. It was
really?
Just like,
wow.
It was like because we trained together for so long, we just logic shit down to like, don't get in your head about this being the biggest one you've done. Don't get in the head about it being, like a scary consequential jump or whatever. Just think about, I've done 100 Kong front pre's and 99 of them have worked. Why would this one not work? Like, you've learned all the lessons along. Why wouldn't this one work? And then it's just, trusting that instinct, I guess.
Truth. Yeah, it's hard to explain, right? But you did a really good job there. It's just like, it's incredible. The capstone one, for example, I mean, it in fact was, you said, probably the biggest one you've ever done. And it is just another jump. And I mean, let's talk about capstone for a minute, because obviously that project was man. Just
I'm ecstatic about it.
Yeah.
It's a launch for the clothing brand, but Sam, Justin, and Phil, who are all invested in the project from the actual clothing side, are all personal friends of mine who I've known for years, and to be a part of something so special was really an honor. Yeah. Could you lay out, before we get into the video, because the video is amazing, and obviously
I mean, it's so interesting too, because like I was so excited, and it's such a huge payoff because Capstone's been building for so long as well. And this is this is the inaugural video.
They spoke to me about it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a twinkle in their eye. Like it wasn't even a conceivable thing. And they were just like, yeah, we've got this idea to start a new clothing company and do it differently to what the usual like kind of system of release is.
Yeah, and I don't know the the organization, like how could you talk about more about what that a different idea is, like how it's different, how that kind of came to be, and how you got involved.
So they spoke to me very early on about their idea, and obviously I think at the time they were even asking if I wanted to be involved in the the technical side of the business, and I've always staved away from that personally. I said, just put me on like media and marketing, like just I'll come do jumps and I'll promote the shit out of it. Cause like, I love you guys and it'd be awesome to
And this
see
was
it go.
Justin, Sam, and Phil. Those are the three that.
Yeah. So Sam Carter and Justin Louis from Melbourne and Phil Doyle are the people that I'm aware of that kind of have the baby, and the Capstone is their thing. But the reason they want to remain less known or more anonymous is because Capstone isn't meant to be a specific team, or it's not meant to be made up of specific people. They want to almost like, I guess, thrash is a bad comparison, but they want to support athletes who want to push boundaries and their limits, and basically give them the opportunity to represent the brand while doing what they love within the sport. And that's like the most admirable thing about when I worked with the project is they literally, they flew me in and I stayed with my friend who was in the same city. And then it was all like down to mine and Kadori's like motivation call, like what we wanted to do. They facilitated, and even to the point where like you see the removing of the bike rack for the dive roll. Yeah. Like I was like, I'm just going to run up on the side here, guys. I'm like, no, we can unscrew it and put it back. Like it's not, that going the extra mile to add that level of comfortability and authenticity to the tricks and the stunts. Because we originally, I went to Melbourne to do a fashion show, and this is when they had kind of now made progress. They had some samples made. They were making action towards pushing the video for the next month, like pushing shooting for the next month. And so I just happened to be in Melbourne, and we shot like a couple of days of footage just kind of talking about the idea. And we got 3 clips from that. I think we got the 3 clips in one day on like the final day of me being there. And that really like set the taste and the tone for the video. There was Sam doing the hurdle over the driveway onto like the ledge next to the wall. And then when he did that, I remember like I was sitting there and he was preparing for like, maybe 5-10 minutes. And I got up to look at it from one side. And he's like, "Don't fuck off." Cause he knew like I was, when I'm sitting there analyzing someone's setup, it's doing the work for me. You're doing all of the math. Yeah. So if you make it comfortable, then I'm going to be ready too. So he's like, "Dom, sit down." I was like, "Okay." So I've been looking at it for like 3 months, man. I got this. So he did it. And then I did the hurdle after. And then I was like, "Guys, I think I can side flip it." And it didn't really take that long, and it all went really to plan, and it just intuitively felt like the right thing. You kind of get to a job, you're like, okay, this is gonna work. I don't like. It seems like it's a bad idea, but this is gonna work for sure. And so I did that, and then Justin, like 20 minutes later, did the big arm jump across the driveway where he falls down, and I'm like laughing. Yeah. And
there's like a little shoulder pop out of it.
Yeah. He like flicks his hair out. He's the coolest guy, man. Like very, very stoic, chill individual. I idolize to be that cool one day.
Yeah, he does have that presence about him. I've never met him, but I've been paying attention to his movement and his personality in his videos for a while. So definitely
like
a
the
magnetic
most
draw.
like old school rock and roll vibes I've ever met the person.
Yeah. He's I'd love to go to Australia one day and just to tour it for a little while, because I don't even know what cities everyone's in, but it's gonna happen.
We'd be happy to have you. It'd be great we love having international free runners, because we're just not from like we're from really far away, so yeah, we want people to come. Totally. But that kind of set pace, I guess. Then like level wise, we're like, okay, this is what we're trying to hit. And then Kadori and I like organized with them to do 10 days in Adelaide before they did what was going to be 10 days in Brisbane with the twins, but they ended up shooting for an additional 40 days.
Oh, wow.
So project shot over 50 days. Yeah, I was only there for the first 10. So everything you saw from me was in the first 10 days, and then they shot the rest for the 40 days, something like that. Crazy.
Absolutely crazy. Yeah, I mean, well, it's an incredible landmark video. Obviously, like, the anticipation's high for the next one already. You know, just like, what do you know anything about, like, how everyone feels about the project? Like, what is it next? What's next for Capstone? I mean, it's Capstone Australia. So
Yes.
that like calls into questions like, what's the next one? Is it like another country, another continent? What is it going to be?
I can give away, I think the next one won't be in Australia.
Okay, that's fair. I think.
Yeah. But there'll be some BTS stuff coming from the project on the YouTube channel, as far as I know. Definitely on the Instagram, where they're going to kind of just showcase like some of the work up, some of the jumps and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then I know that they're planning to shoot the next project over the next couple of months.
Wow.
So should be pretty good. It should be like the thing with Capstone, I think, is that it's really about trying to push the standard of what you can do as a person. Like where like it's really about that self level amp. Like if you notice, Justin actually didn't make anything in the video.
Yeah, I noticed
He didn't
actually.
hold onto a single arm jump, and he didn't make a single decision. He fucking.
And I don't know how early that Savage Shinner happened, but
middle to end of the shoot,
I
like
don't know if that
second
must
half.
have taken him out for pretty much the rest of it, I would imagine.
Yeah, it took 6 weeks to recover. He had like a knuckle-sized shinning, and they had to do skin grafts and that sort of thing. Like it was a proper, like one of those high-grade shinnings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean that was like marble edge, right? That he was, or some kind of like granite, so like hard rock edge.
Like a 16-foot plyo or something as well. Like it's
and he
so
slipped a little, right? I mean, I saw in the comments, it sounds like he just didn't get enough purchase on that corner.
Yeah,
and so he just,
I think one toe made it nicely, the other toe didn't make it nicely enough, flicked out under, which then you can't hold that much on one leg, and then the other shin just collected the wall on the way through.
Man, that was brutal.
Yeah, savage, man. They like, I mean, in a way, I'm really glad they didn't show the hole, because it was.
They did on one of the Instagram posts or something. Yeah. It wasn't in the video, but I caught a glimpse of it, and I was like.
Yeah, proper, like, you know.
Yeah, it was.
But I think it was a smart move, because you're not going to get demonetized if you don't have a gaping shin hole.
Oh yeah, jeez, I don't even.
Blocked anyway, like bloody fucking YouTube.
Them, whatever.
I will.
Whoever these. I imagine they're in suits, but I don't know. They might not be in suits. They might have been hoodies and sweatshirts, but they're still making rules. I don't like it.
Yeah. There's too much. Just like I want, like, let me see what I want to see.
Yeah.
Let me choose. You know, at least the level of things that I want to see.
Yeah. Wow. Well, let's see. I mean, yeah. You've been doing so much. It's kind of like the Hazal and you like duo Red Bull video came out just recently. Obviously, got Red Bull coming up tomorrow.
Yeah.
And like,
emotion. Jeez, that is going to be something special, man.
Oh, it always is.
I think like the athlete lineup for the course selection this year is actually fantastic. Like it's from reviews from people that I've been talking to, and also just observation. It's quite a compact course, and so there's going to be a lot of athletes who thrive in the flow state, or like the sense of use of course, because they're used to working in those gyms or setups. Like I think we're going to see someone like Archie or someone like Christian really excel, simply because most of their training is done on Parkour Park setups, or those little areas that fit free running lines well. Obviously Ellis Torhall I think is going to stand out, because it's Ellis, and the style that he trains with compact movement like that really fits the course as well, the course design. I have heard there's high chance of fall-ins, so that's good. I'd love to see a few splashes.
Yeah, me too. Always.
You got any hot favorites or people you're excited to watch?
I don't know. I don't have any favorites, because I haven't like actually gotten a chance to look at the course. Like it sounds like, or really get a feel for it, what it is, and like I just know it's on a boat is what I heard, and I'm just like, that's remarkable.
So there's two boats.
There's
at least two boats, and they're like kind of spread like this. So you run along one and then you jump across to the other, which the gap moves with the tide. So you might have a really big gap, or you might have a small gap. Apparently,
that is some This is gonna be fun. I don't even really care. Like I mean, I'm always excited to see. I'm a little bit like behind the times, like I've been saying. So like I haven't paid enough attention to know what Ellis and Archie and some of these guys that are newer but not new to the scene are gonna do. So I'm definitely.
I mean, my favorites are still Ed and Verky.
Yeah,
I'm most excited to see them.
When I saw Verky got in, I was like, it's going to be pretty wild because Ed and him are always going to play off each other, it seems like. And yeah, I'm excited to watch Ed always. I know you guys have a little friendly battle going on, so he wants to probably pump.
No, it's mostly just shit talking. I don't know. About, like, I think like straight away when it happened, I messaged him like, you dirty cunt, you stole my title or some shit. Like I don't know, we just got into it. And then like he's just been playing off the banter backwards, and it's really nice because it is like kind of like a friend, like there's no competitiveness to it, but it's like a friendly competition where both of us get to push ourselves for some prize that doesn't really matter. It's just a peer,
exactly,
like, peer award. And I just want to be cool in Star's eyes, man. If that's like that's all. If they just tell me I'm cool in the Star Awards this year, like, Dom, we think you're cool, I'll be so happy. I'll be like, cool, that's right. I don't even need an award.
No, we'll all take that, I think. Oh man. Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. That's for sure. I might do a live companion, just like watch it and podcast as I watch it, just to like, for my phone, for my own self. Maybe with Max. Max is out here, and we might watch it together.
But I'm gonna watch it with some of the local guys here.
Yeah, I mean, it's just exciting to see everything come back, especially that format sounds like it's really quite different than ever before, and it's interesting because, like you said, you kind of have every style, but also you shine brightest when you're not in that kind of setting, probably where it's like built up and there's lots of things that are like so it's interesting.
I find that quite difficult.
Me too, to be fair. And like I don't know what it is. If I use I don't know what it is actually. Do you know what it is?
I think you like running. You like running and run-ups, and I also like running and run-ups, and so that really negates like the bang, bang, bang flow plyometric style, continuous vaulting and that sort of thing. Like I do like to try and use my whole body, like arms, legs, back, whatever, but I find if I can run between things, I have a lot more like ease and momentum transfer than trying to power through stuff. Yeah,
fair. Yeah, no, I like to cover ground. I think like distance more than I like to, but it's interesting. Yeah, I think, but I think that's interesting because there is like sort of a, with the Capstone project, there's always been kind of a split in a little bit of, there always will be probably between what a competition offers and what, a video or a video can do. And
would you agree? Sorry to interject,
go for
would you agree that like there is a certain flavor to all of the Art of Motion submissions this year? Not all of them, but 90%, 80%. So it's almost like you're watching the same athlete in a different body. Like a lot of them, the same skill set, same variety, same linking movements, same like creative choices, because there's become like a formula to competition lines and strategy. And a lot of people are more aware of that system now. And so then it becomes down. Like I would have hated to be a judge this year because it's so hard to separate that stuff.
Oh man, I did
back in the day. It was
even just one of the Tempest Onlines. It's the same problem. I was a judge for one of those, and I was like, what am I like supposed to do with some of this? Like it's just
they did the same
so
moves
difficult.
in different order. I don't know how to split this evenly.
Yeah, I mean, eventually I just went with my taste. At the end of the day, I'm like, well, they wanted me to be a judge, and so this is what I like the most. And some of that is like, well, I know this movie's not harder, but it's more unique in some
creative,
way. Yeah,
different.
No, I would agree. I think like that's always been kind of the relationship with competition is like it has this more. It reflects on itself, and it kind of like creates like a more specialized trending of the movement, and so people kind of like you can get sucked into a vortex there. It's a good thing because it can like harden you and like discipline you and make you like into this extreme, you don't see Ed Scott like suffering his competitive nature, for example, like he's clearly it's taken him further to compete, but at the same time he takes his competitive earnings, you could say, and he takes them outside and applies them in ways that are, again, completely unique and fresh. And so I think they can definitely feed each other in both directions. I've always been most interested in, I think, ultimately I think competition will always have to be a little bit derivative of what happens outside of competition, because it's yeah, like you said, it just becomes more organized, and then the innovation happens more frequently in the streets, because it's more rebellious, and it's more like just whatever you like. It's more open-ended.
Exactly. And I think there is a split as well between, like, if you look at 90% of the capstone video is more parkour based, and that's because there's a lot more mental and athletic side that goes into the parkour movements. When it comes to those thunderous big movements, there's a capacity of like mental adequacy that you need with years of training to make sure you don't get hurt or be able to do it right. But then, you know, the same athleticism disciplines in free running, but then it becomes, as you said, more linear to the mindset of what goes on in there. It's less about like stretching the definition. And I think, how are you going to create competition courses that have arm jumps big enough for Kidori to
yeah, no, that was the other thing. It's like, you can't even, they're two different mindsets, right? Like, you couldn't set up a competition where someone, not that, you know, like, but to Kidori, for example, like, it might take you 30 to 40 minutes to do some jumps, and you might still do them. And maybe that's not like ideal for your training. Like, you know, he ended up being I know what he means. Like, when you're like, I just took too long to do that. Sometimes you want it, but even if it's not too long to do it, it's going to take some time. It's going to have to be on your time. It can't be on competition time to do some of the most explosive or exciting movements that will ever happen, or like the most death defying. You know, if there's things, you can't set up a competition where someone could die, like, you know, from a mistake that
any sort of standpoint is not acceptable. So, unfortunately.
Yeah. Or they could, you know, I don't know. I mean,
in Death Race, man, that could be a reality soon.
It could be, you know, we might just get the bloodlust later in the generations of parkour, where we just like don't care, and that becomes part of it. I mean, certainly, I don't think, well, and it could be just more violent even. Maybe it doesn't have to be death. You know, no one's died. You know, we got a UFC card coming up tomorrow as well. No one's died in the UFC. People have died in mixed martial arts, but there is like a high level, people are going to get injured in fights. And people are okay with that. And I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think that's in keeping with the discipline of parkour, because there's no reason for us to get injured if we're doing it right, really, you know?
And also, in saying that, just quickly, in the capstone video, other than Justin's shin, everybody was fine. No injuries.
Wow, that's amazing.
Like, everyone came out clean and solid. So
that's amazing. Yeah, no, that's actually one of the best things that to hear about that project. But also, what was I going to say about that was just,
sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. It was kind of irrelevant anyways. You actually turned it on, by your thought actually made me remember what it is that I wanted to say, which was, your arm, dude. Your arm and your hip and things, like, your body has adapted in certain ways. I think was it the Jimmy the Giant video, maybe, I think, that did the feature where I learned this about you, that your body has sort of started to adapt to your training style in a way that, you know, as far as I know, is kind of unheard of. We have some calcification, like even my left hip, the hip that I tend to roll out of, has a little bit of like a calcification on the bone, because I've bumped it enough times, or I've kind of like just hardened up that tissue to take a better roll, you know. And that's super fascinating to see what might come of that. Like, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And like, obviously, you know, what amazes people so much about you is your ability to do so many consistently high impact things, and seem to be, you know, still accelerating in your output, like we talked about earlier. What is it that your body is telling you these days about, you know, how do you stay in touch with not pushing it too far but still pushing it?
I mean, I still have definitely times where I overtrain. Like, even the last few days, I had like the front fascia of my foot like get really, really tight and kind of inflamed because my hips were out of line, and I just kept training through it. Like, sometimes your pelvis can shift in its tilt, especially if you're doing stuff where you fall on your butt and knock it out. But yeah, so but what I found now at the age of 29 is that I've had to reduce the hours of training and hours on my feet than when I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm able to do a higher level and a higher output if I'm more focused on specifically that. So this year, and I think this is where you've seen the switch in media from the external, is that I stopped training really and I started hunting.
Mm.
Um, because all the calcification stuff and all that stuff that's built up over years, my ankles are almost like permanently swollen. The fatty tissue around the outside of my heels is quite numb and like swollen in a way. I don't know how to explain it really, but during isolation recently, I noticed that was starting to deplete, and I could feel my heel bone more through the joint, and my ankles were going back to a more normal size.
Mm.
So there is a consistency that comes with building those calcifications.
Mm.
But then, yeah, it is just like uh, listening to your body and listening to what it needs. So I personally get the mental gratification out of doing the hard shit. So my body told me, okay, you can't keep just doing 30 to 50% output training all day because you'll wear yourself out.
Mm.
I don't have the same stamina for that sort of stuff that I used to, especially like when I was 25. If I could push through like bruised heels and all sorts of injuries. But I would say I have severely less injuries now that I train a lot more tactically. And I make sure that I almost break down every challenge like to preparations and like finding those correct notes more than I used to, because I used to just be like, yeah, that feels right, bang. It's like, yeah, that feels right, but now I'm going to go and do the work, come back, nailed it, perfect, less injury.
Yeah. No, I totally relate to that. I know what it's like to have to kind of adapt that exact kind of strategy where it's like I need to be a little more efficient with my energy, and I need a little bit more certainty of, minimal injury, because
Yeah.
your regenerative time is just a little slower. Like you just like you said, you can't just push through swollen ankles or bruised heels or certain things. Your body says, no, we're gonna stop doing that today.
I mean, what's nice so far is that the regeneration stuff hasn't seemed to like prolong itself. Like it's still a day or 2 days and things seem to move away. And I'm like really vigilant with my mobility exercises and like a lot of massage therapy, like just self massage with like the tennis ball and stuff, and just trigger point work, and lots of stretching. Like you'll either find me editing, stretching, or training. Like the three steps are done right now. Like the only time that I'm not really in stretch mode is when I'm editing and hunkered over the computer, and that's only a couple of hours at a time as well. So
awesome, man. I mean, I definitely don't. In my experience, I still have new heights to reach if I want to. At my age, and I'm approaching 33, so it's amazing to watch and just like kind of see, everyone taking it further, especially further in age, because it's just unclear what's possible. And again, because we have this mindset of like we don't really know where the limit is.
It's just speaking really of that kind of rebellious or resilient mindset to like what people say, like from my ice skating coach, is that I definitely have this kind of defiance attitude to proving people of when the age of diminishing return is. Because I think like, in a large sense, human society, definitely we cap where we think our physical capacity is. We have a few standout people. Like look at David Goggins. He's probably more fit than he ever was at his age already.
Yeah, exactly.
And it will continue to do so as far as I can tell, and there is awareness that comes with age and wisdom and that sort of thing. But realistically, even in professional sport, there's also these foreseeable ends, or this is like where the professional journey ends, and parkour doesn't have that. And that was one of the things that really drew me to the sport, because with ice skating, I was turning 18 and it's like, you got 8 years left and then you'll be a coach, or that's, or you didn't make it. And it's like, that makes no sense to me. So it was all about like training and doing it. Like people would ask me like, oh, how long do you think you can do this for? I'm like, forever. Like, that's the cool thing about it, is that I can continue to push that until I'm like, like Endis and I were doing training in Germany once, and he was like, bro, I'm going to be doing these pole strides till I'm like 80, 85, like, because they don't require like anything but like particular placement and balance of ankles and stability. So
I love that.
The thing that I try to prove to people that your age limit is really a mental thing as well.
Absolutely.
I think Renee did a post about like something, you know, when your body starts to blah, 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 it's 30. And I was like, just heavily disagree. And no, you will see.
Yeah. No, man, it changes. The bar always moves, and it moves because of people not believing where the bar is the truth. And that's like important, you know. It's important not to like move it so far that you break yourself and become just another, you know, example.
There is individual level and individual like capacity for that, for sure. You can't just say everyone can go till they're 50 and everyone can go hard every day.
But I mean, clearly Bo, or whatever his name is,
bit by bit,
the former 47-year-old free runner, now he's like 55 or something. I mean, whatever
Bo.
his name, Bo. Yeah, I'm following him. I mean, doesn't seem to be slowing down, and he's damn near 60. And yeah, no,
this is the sickest, bro. He just hangs out with the London lads. He's like one of the boys. He's literally like you wouldn't consider him to be older when we hang out. He's just such a sick dude. Like,
wow, oh man, I would love to meet him and train. Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think that's one of the most fascinating things about the sport to me as well. Is just like it's completely open ended. There is no, you can set the bar, you know, just by every day you participate, and we have lots of examples of people really pushing that. And, you know, I'm very curious to see where it goes, like, because we still don't have any of these paths figured out. Like, we have a little bit of a YouTube path. We have a little bit of, like, in terms of what archetypes will exist. But also society's kind of changing too fast for us to really predict that. And so, you know, it's just like...
Yeah, it's really hard to...
We keep training, we'll see.
The comforting thing when I look at it all is that the next generation seems to be vastly... progress and improving from our generation, which is like, okay, cool, we're doing something right if the next generation is like hitting that level early. Like, you know, you look at the fat guys, you look at people like Ellis Torhall, you look at Kadori, and you're like, holy shit, there is a whole new generation. Like in every country too. I was in South Africa, there's like a bunch of young guys, specifically one guy, Cameron Group, he's like professional level. He's been training like 4 years, 5 years. It's just his capacity is so high because the base techniques have been transferred early and the sport is progressing. So that's a really good sign. Regardless of where it goes, it's on the up.
Yeah, always, for sure. Where do you think things will go, like in terms of just the culture of things and like what we can expect to see, like when you are 40, you know, and do you have any ideas? Like, do you even plan for that? Do you think about the years and decades down the road?
Nowadays, I used to really like think about what the sport was going to be in 5 years and really like where the culture and community would be. If there's one thing I've kind of come to my own personal realization is that the bubble's never going to pop people. We're always going to be a slow expansion growth. And if we all just work at it, parkour will eventually be this worldwide industry and established kind of sport and known entity.
Yeah.
But it's really like, for me, I'm a simple guy. I just want to train every day and shoot content. And if it doesn't affect me doing that, I'm not that bothered in which the direction of the sport goes, because it isn't up to me. Yeah. It's up to the people involved, and it's up to the masses and the community. And, you know, I've seen all of the, I wouldn't say political, but like, you know, different ethical battles that go on from within parkour. And look, I respect everyone's argument and everything, but I just don't have an opinion when it comes to it, because I just want to go jump with my friends. You know, is it going to stop me from doing that? No, then I'm going to go do it.
No, I think
and not think about that stuff.
It's healthy sometimes to, especially if it's not your battle. It's like, I'm not fighting that one. That's not one I have an opinion about.
There's a reason for me to invest and kind of get on board with certain things, then I definitely will, or take a stance. But until that stage, I don't think it's promoting the right mindset within the sport for people who want to get out there and just follow their passion and train intrinsically for the joy of parkour.
Yeah, I agree with that very much. And I think, like we will hit, like, we're just going to keep expanding. Like you said, the bubble doesn't ever really burst. It just grows and
grows. Yeah.
It's
like a balloon.
You know, it's just like, well, and everything is like that as far as we can tell about the universe anyway. So why would we expect parkour is different, right? We're expanding the universe,
overnight success snap. Like, no, that was the initial shine. And then now we've just got to keep making it happen.
Yeah. And you won't get like now that I am 30 and I'm not maybe surrounded by as many people that understand as I used to be, you know, I'll get the question all the time, like you said, and like, how long are you going to keep doing this? Are you still doing that thing, that parkour thing? And I'm like, yeah, man, like eventually you won't ask that question because you don't ask somebody my age if they still ski, if they like skiing. You know what I mean?
Or if they still go to the gym.
Or they still go to the
really.
gym, or like, yeah, exactly, anything.
Are you still exercising
You're
there,
still-
buddy? You still keeping fit? Like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I do. But it's a fun journey to be a part of. That's for sure. And you have your own podcast, and that's part of what you're doing. You know, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, just anything to kind of make the professional athlete thing work, really.
Yeah.
Putting myself out there was like a big, almost like personal sacrifice in a way. Like I didn't want to be the guy talking to the camera. And I didn't want to be like hosting everything or vlogging, but it just kind of made my own little compromises that made it like worthy or like, you know, fun for me, or in a different way. Like you'll notice a lot of how I talk to the camera is like a just like irregular, erratic, ranting idiot, like almost like the mask from Jim Carrey's The Mask, like just and I'm fine with that, because for me then it looks like, you know, it feels natural that I'm not trying to do something I wouldn't. Like you've hung out with me in person, I'm literally exactly the same. I just like invade your personal space and things. I just treat the personal camera like the camera like I would a close friend, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Inappropriately.
Yeah, man. I remember last time we actually were on a mic and really in the same space, I think was NEPC 2016, 15?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think 17. I think it's
17. Jesus.
Yeah.
17. And that was super fun. That was definitely a good time. I hope to
in trouble for saying Shingina, so hopefully I can say that on your podcast.
I mean, I'm not going to go back and bleep it or edit it unless you make me, but yeah, no, that's well, I think that's like everyone kind of carries a certain energy, you know? The way that I kind of see it is like you represent a lot of things to a lot of people, but it's by being yourself, you know? And like the reason why you're successful is because you're authentically just you are that kind of guy. You are that guy. You push it. You push the boundaries a little bit. You're going to push, you know, social boundaries a little bit too if you're that way. And what was I going to say? It was just like it's beautiful to watch because everyone that it kind of like embraces that side of themselves, I think, you know, they get to a level where they're even like they're liberated more and more every time by it, because eventually the positive feedback comes back through, you know, and you've worked through whatever. I mean, maybe you didn't feel like you ever had to do that, but it seems like get everyone kind of has yeah.
Yeah, growing up was the issue for me with insecurity. Like I was always trying to fit in and never really felt like I did. And if there's any advice I can give to like younger people who are struggling to retain friendships or struggling to find that kind of social stability and strength, is that being yourself and, you know, without being malicious in any way, just self-prioritizing and knowing what you want out of things. And also just not letting that stuff run your life. You know, you don't need to be concerned with the relationships and friendships other than when you're involved in them. Don't go away and overanalyze the situation. Just do your thing. And if you can find your passion, that's when it's really lucky. Because for me, I just found parkour. Everything else went off to one side, and then people started to respect me because I was doing my own thing. And that's when I stopped caring about whether people liked me, I had more friends. So,
it's the only way that it works.
Don't worry about it. Just go and do your thing, and then, you know, be nice, and that's how you're gonna make friends.
Yeah, well said. What outside of, I mean, you are a simple guy, like you said, and your life is, you know, training, preparing for training, and, you know, sharing your content, making the content. And I really do like your vlog. That was the other thing I was going to point out, is like I actually really like your point of view because it's so kind of raw. It's like it was really interesting, for example, and I'm not saying I liked even one or the other, but it was just like interesting to see the store version of your IMAX Kong front, for example, and then your version of it, just as the two different vlogs. And you just kind of get like you get by the same event, this monumental event, you know, happening, but from all the, and it wasn't just those 2 vlogs. I mean, there was lots of content coming out from all different points of view. That was a fascinating thing to watch, because the maelstrom of that also revealed just kind of more about like, oh, this is how people's content is, because there is the thing that happened, you know, the move, and then there's all of people's like kind of perspective on how it happened and what happened, and you can see how just everyone brings something different to the table, and it shines casts a different kind of light on it. And it helped me realize like why I watch Store and why I watch your vlogs, you know, and I watch them for somewhat different reasons, but I love like that, you know, something like that, this big thing can kind of show me like, okay, this is what I'm going to go to if I want to feel that way, or watch this kind of content, or get this kind of
there's an awe-inspiring feeling and a wow feeling that you get when you watch Stora's content, even if it is just training stuff. They have this stylized way of showcasing it, but also presenting it chronologically and with the music and everything to build the right emphasis. I would say simply, I just don't have that artistry, and that's why mine are raw and more comedic. Someone just wrote once, like, your cutting in your music makes your videos more funny and less like epic, and I was like, perfect, I'm gonna lean into that. Just jarring cuts and stupid fade-ins, and like, fuck it, I'm just gonna make it like an ADD edit of just, this is what happened.
Yeah, that was the title of a documentary I made, What Happened. And mine was very much an ADD like edit style. I mean, I tried to make it cinematic and pretty and stuff, but at the same time I'm a little bit like caught in between that in that project, because I was like, my editing style is also somewhat akin to yours, which is just like, here's like the frames that I find interesting and nothing less or more than that. Like, I just put it all in project and then cut it all down to where I like. You know? That was a funny noise, I'll leave that in there. If like I need to put emphasis, I just crop a little bit. It's easy. Do you draw inspiration from other people outside the sport? Do you draw inspiration or like perspective or philosophy? Do you pay attention to any of that mindset stuff, or is it something that you just live?
Yeah, I don't really live. Like, I live and breathe parkour. Every other sport to me is inferior. Not inferior, I wouldn't say that, but like, you know, is less interesting, less intriguing. You know, in my spare time, I watch parkour videos. If I'm like, I'm a sucker for like Netflix series and jamming like garbage TV. But if I'm watching something on the internet, it's usually related to parkour, around parkour. Like, you know, when I'm here with the guys that I'm staying with in Romania, every night we just watch a bunch of parkour videos. If we're not listening to music, it's parkour, and we're talking about it. And I'm very obsessive over the one thing. And it's for 2 reasons. Is like, one, you know, if I want to be the greatest athlete I can be to my full potential, I think there is like an obsessive nature that you need to have with that sort of thing. You need to keep your eye on the prize and always be pushing and progressing. But also like, I think to build an industry and to build a community now in this position that I've managed to somehow provocate, like, I don't know how I became a guy in a sport, and you know, I meet people like, oh my God, you've done like all this and all that. I'm like, well, just jump and stuff like you, bro. Like, I didn't see it that way. But I've realized that I do have the power to kind of try and grow the awareness of the sport and the industry. And so the more I can do that, the more it's going to benefit all those people around me. So I stay really focused, because now that I'm here, I think I can do a lot for other people within the sport. And I try to, by just using my platform to kind of continue the growth of parkour.
Yeah, well, it's appreciated for sure. I think that's,
I couldn't be here without the community, man. Like, I wouldn't have had, if you listen to Jimmy's story, heavily reliant on the community's support to get to where I am. Like, in my opinion, I think I'm super thankful for the friendships and opportunities that have arisen through just members of the community and people reaching out to offer that sort of thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think that's one of the things, you know, it's weird because I don't know what you think of this, but like one of the things I think I differ in, like, I came to the parkour community somewhat as an adult. You know, I was 21 when I started training, and that gave me sort of a unique experience because most of the people that I knew and wanted to train with had been doing it since their early teens or mid-teens, and that was their identity. And I always felt a little bit like, oh, I'm not sure if this is like something I can fully adopt, because so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I love the parkour community like to no end, and at the same time I've never identified as a parkour person. And I don't really want to identify, and that's not because I don't love parkour. It's not because I want to identify as some other group, but this is like just a philosophical question that's lived in my mind for a couple of years now. Is just like, I don't want to identify as any group. Like the same way we don't want to put limits on our training and what's possible in it, I don't want to put limits on like what kind of person in life I can experience. And I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Like, do you see yourself as, how do you see yourself? Do you have an identity that you?
I am parkour. So I guess I've always been this really overly passionate, committed person to parkour. Even since I started the first 2 years, I didn't meet anybody from the community, but I had lots of people to train with because everyone I met, I was like, I'll teach you how to backflip. Let's do parkour. Let's get training. My like just need to do it would exude others into getting involved. But then I had a conversation with Phil Doyle. And his, I was asking him about like his history of things, and he said the same thing as you. He's like, I didn't want to be Phil the parkour guy. I just wanted to be a normal person. I just want to be a person, so I'm not limited in my output and options like that. And so I just kind of got on board with my like mentality.
Hold on a sec. You're frozen on my end here.
Maybe.
Okay, got me.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You were telling your story. You said you had a conversation with Phil, and then shit hit the fan.
Okay, cool. So I was having a conversation with Phil, and he was saying he didn't want to, like, growing up, I was asking, like, why did you kind of not leave the community, but kind of leave being a prominent figurehead in the sport and pushing the sport like the way you were. And he said he got to 18, he wanted to do other things really, but also there was a little bit of like, he didn't just want to be Phil the parkour guy. Like you said, he didn't want to have this one thing that labeled him as a definitive human. And after that, I like took some reflection. I was like, I think to be the person I want to be within the sport and for the sport, I'm going to just commit to, you can synonymously identify me and parkour as the same thing. I live, breathe, eat shit it. I'm all about like the community morale and the culture of the sport more than I am about any sort of industry or growth value for like, how can I make an income? How can I monetize my platform? How can I be somebody? Like, I don't care about that shit. I just want to train. So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to be that whole physical embodiment of parkour and just promote it and live and breathe it. And you can see me and be like, that's the front flip guy. You can see me and be like, that's the parkour guy. That's fine. Like, I honestly, like, I love it that much, and it's probably got in the way of all my relationships, but I love it that much that that's the thing that I'm happy to be identified as.
Of all your relationships, is that what you said?
Relationships have just never been great with the lifestyle choice, but like, it's parkour's my first love, and that's how committed I am to just being only about parkour.
Married to the game.
Married to the game, man. I love it too much.
I admire that. I respect that, and I think it's certainly, it's cool, man. It's cool that that's how you feel about it. I think it's just what it is.
Yeah, I like after that conversation was like, you know what? I think I am that guy. You know what I mean? Like, people stave off being that guy. Nah, it's like I obviously know I offer a lot more than just being a parkour person personally, and that's why I think I'm happy to. When you know what you like about yourself, you're happy to identify as whatever to others because it doesn't fucking matter. Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, I think if you feel that's, you're like, I don't give a shit. I think it's really good and healthy to not give a shit what anyone identifies you as. It's parkour, and you're like, for me, I am that parkour. Like, I am it. Yeah, that's amazing, dude. Because I don't know what it is that makes you that and makes Phil not that and me not that. But it's authentic to you. It's clear, and it's authentic, I think, to Phil to not take that path. Although he's still, super involved, and he's in the Capstone project, and
there's a certain level of like, you get to a certain point for sure where you're like, is this my whole life and who I am? And a lot of people, I think, at that point take a step back, and they, parkour takes a secondary priority to living life as a whole, because you learn all these internal strengthening messages from parkour. But yeah, like, I just love doing the sport enough that I was like, committed. Put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it. Put a ring on Dom. Are you in, I don't want to ask, I don't know what, I don't want to get too personal, but are you in a relationship now, or are you just
no longer in a relationship. I was for 2 years previously, and excellent woman. But again, I just think, I wanted different things with life and the sport and that sort of thing. And it's just so hard with the spontaneity and how much now I live in the moment of like, oh, I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm in Romania right now. And that only really came about like a month ago when I was like in South Africa and needed somewhere to go before I could go to England. So it's like, it's just, I just go with the wind, and it's much harder to do that with anybody attached, not just, referees one or anything. Like with any sort of relationship, man, it's a difficult thing. And I honestly don't think I can give enough attention to another human currently anyway, that I'm giving to the sport and the community and everybody involved in it. That I don't have the split. So
no, I think I think that's really honest and superhuman of you, because I've experienced in my growth through the sport, it's definitely hard, and there is sacrifices that must be made, like on one end or the other, and in regards to like what kinds of connections you can have either to the discipline and your practice and to other people. It just is what it is. I don't think you can cover all bases. Oh shit, you're frozen again. Hello? Fucking Zoom. Fucking Zoom. Piece of shit. Yes. Back?
We're back.
I did a rant. Goddamn rant on Zoom. This piece of shit software. I mean,
keeps happening.
I don't know. It only ever actually, this is the first time. You're just too much, dude. You're too much hotness for the. I've never actually dropped a call completely on Zoom, so it might have also just been the fact that you're on completely the other side of the world with you're in Romania, right? So
yeah. They have decent internet, but like, I don't know how the connection is.
Anyways, I was when we got disconnected, I was just saying like, I think it's honest, and I think it's really true, and at least in my experience, that sacrifices must be made on either end of, or on some end. Like you can have a deep connection to your practice, and ideally you can have a deep connection to somebody else. But depending what they want out of a relationship, it's just there's not enough bandwidth to go around for everyone's needs to be met. You hear about
lawyers and stuff who sacrifice, and surgeons and stuff who sacrifice all their time for their job, and it's like, why? Just because mine isn't, necessarily paying millions of dollars, why isn't it just as important to me as a human to be that obsessive over what I'm doing and that committed to it?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's and it's, and I think it's like we ought to recognize that, because you do give a lot to the sport, and I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your ass, but it's just like the fact that you do push the sport, it's like, that's for you, but it's also, we all benefit from it. Like you said, like when someone gets to a million,
helplessness.
Yeah, it's exactly, you can't help others unless you're helping yourself. But if you're helping yourself, sometimes you can really help others. And there is a sacrifice there, and certainly, I've seen it play out, in a number of ways, but, with parkour, it's not that it's completely unique, but it is a very high energy practice. It takes a lot of power, it takes a lot of attention, and it takes a lot of discipline to really push it, especially these days. You gotta be fucking kidding me with this Zoom shit. I'm gonna freak out on Zoom. All right, you there?
All right, let's see.
All right. We don't know how much time we have. Fucking Zoom has got us on a gun to our head. So, anyhow, it's a crazy balance. Thank you so much for being a part of this one. I'm going to let you wrap this up and catch the sunset in Romania. Is there anything else you want to share?
Nice colors.
Yeah, I bet. Oh my God, the rooftops probably are crazy out there.
Mm-hmm. And low like resistance to climbing from the locals. Like a lot of like people don't really give a shit if you're on the roof. So it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. Gotta love that Eastern European culture. Yeah, brother. Until next time, obviously, we'll be watching, and thank you for everything you do. And we'll see you on the gram, and hopefully in Australia, or maybe if you make it out to Colorado one of these days, that'd be great.
I do plan, hopefully 2022 will be more US heavy. That's my goal. Do want to get some time over and actually like see all the different cities that I haven't seen so far.
Yeah, no.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. Where the parkour is good.
Well, I'll get you, a floor to sleep on if you need one, and
Yeah, thank you for inviting me on, man. I appreciate it a lot. Like, it's always great to chat and great to catch up and see your face and talk some shit. So
yeah, likewise, brother. Yeah, it's been a good. Let's go. At least let's try to get Rez to put us on the next broadcast again. And
yes, for sure.
And
for
we
sure.
can
I
meet
want
up
to
in
do more
Vancouver.
hosting.
Fuck yeah. All right, man. Much love
Big
to you.
love, man.
Good
I'll
to
talk
see
to you soon.
All right, cheers, brother.
Joey. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too.
Woo!
Alrighty. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks, Dom. Really appreciate the time. Thank you, Zoom, for making this possible and for fucking everything up at the end as well. It was good timing because he had to go get that sunset, even though it infuriated me, and now I have to edit this episode, which I never do. And I guess I could just leave it just like it's the most choppy, gross thing. But I won't do that to you guys because I love you, and I really appreciate the support the podcast has gotten, over the years to grow to, the modest amount of following we have. But, the engagement that I get, even if it's just a comment here or there, whatever, in person or online, I really appreciate that some of you guys are listening and still paying attention to this journey. And it was really great for Dom to help reignite the channel. It's been on a bit of a hiatus, and I hope to be releasing more content this summer and fall. So look out for that. Much love. Until then.